Hello, guys, and welcome back to the Champions of Wellness podcast. We are now on episode 3, and the title of this podcast is going to be cold exposure, and that's going to be our main topic and focus for the day. Like always, guys, please subscribe and share and follow, give us a like, do all the engagement stuff because it really helps us out. And the more you like and the more you spread this podcast, the better information we can give you and the more time we can put towards production and just making this a much better experience for you guys. And also, please give us any feedback for what you would like to see on this podcast or maybe future podcasts, because that would really help us out as well. And also just to plug all of our sources, we are here on Rumble, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook, and the handle is going to be at Healing Your Way. And yeah, please go check all of those sources out because it really does us a lot of good and helps us out a lot. So yeah, I'll just say thank you for that.
Yeah, we also have another video that we just posted today. It's a reel that's from one of the podcasts. We'll have daily videos, 2 to 3 videos a day. Coming soon, so be tuned in to the our handle, which is coin our last name .hyw for Healing Your Way. So that's on TikTok and Instagram, so check those videos out. We'll be posting them a lot.
Yeah, and it's gonna be a mix of like real like Joshin just said, short form content, and then maybe we can include a couple videos. But yeah, we would, if you guys have any recommendations, please let us know right away.
Yeah, and also any of the videos that you liked before where San did some cooking videos or things like that, type in the comments if you'd like to see anything like that. And today we're going to be talking about cold exposure and how that can affect our thermogenesis, but mainly about how it can also come to photogenesis as well, to regulate the body as well as improve your overall health.
Yeah, and just to start off with cold exposure, I think when people think of cold exposure, they think of an ice bath or a cold shower, but actually it can literally just be from cold air as well. So you walking outside in a cold environment or in the winter time, that also counts as cold exposure as well, which at first I didn't know. I thought it was strictly just ice baths or cryotherapy or kind of the things that you see on the internet. It's usually either a mix of like a cryotherapy chamber or a cold tub or something like that. But yeah, you can actually get cold exposure from going outside as well.
Yeah, and cold exposure can really help with when it comes to our circadian rhythm. We talked about in several podcasts where you want to have cold exposure later in the day so that you can wind down, and then you want heat in the morning so that you can wake your body up. So that will come into play as well.
Yeah, and another thing I would like to say about what people think as far as cold exposure, usually the main benefits that you see or hear of is one, release of norepinephrine and dopamine to help with things like mood swings, getting more motivated, or just getting a dopamine response that feels good, especially if you're super stressed out, maybe you have a headache or something along any of those lines. Usually people will implement cold exposure, and I've used cold exposure or specifically cold showers whenever I've been maybe a little under the mood or under the weather and maybe had a headache or was just tired and needed something to get me up and alive and going. And I would have to say that doing the cold shower, especially like when you're super fatigued, like it actually helped me a lot. I don't know, even 30 seconds to like 2 to 3 minutes was just enough for me to like wake up, I felt that my eyes were like wide open. I actually even saw some of the bags under my eyes go away or subside a little bit, and I felt a lot of alertness and focus and ready. And then
Yeah.
that was pretty much the thing that got me to get up and do whatever I had to do and whatever my task was for that day.
Hmm. Yeah, and cold can also be more helpful and earlier in the day. You can do it for recovery after, say, you had a workout or things like that. But if you're trying to gain muscle, you want to have cold exposure maybe 3 to 4 hours after, because what cold does to your body is simulate thermal regulation, and your body's heating up as your mitochondria is making, like producing and using and releasing energy, so your metabolism's going up, and you're kind of interrupting the process after you work out, where your body's repairing and also growing. And you want to give time in between for your body to regulate back to normal, where you're heated up after training and you go cool down. You want to have a little bit of a gap in between so that your body can focus on muscle growth and repair first. But having showers, like San said, in the morning is really important, because you're spiking your cortisol in the morning, and with the cold exposure, you're having your body thermoregulate, where you're heating up your body and releasing norepinephrine and epinephrine, which are stress signals, and you'll be more awake and ready for the day. And also, he said that the bags under his eyes as well. Cold water and cold water especially will make your skin tighter as well.
Yeah, because reducing inflammation, which is one of the another main reason why people resort to maybe like icing of the face or any other method of cold exposure to help
Yeah.
with um, decreasing inflammation. Like you can think of recovering from an injury. If it's super inflamed, you put ice on it. It's exactly for that reason.
Yeah, and I wanted to give an example, like I'm training for like kickboxing every day, and I've been doing it for a lot of training sessions, maybe even twice a day. And for me, I also want to gain muscle as well, so I wouldn't be having cold exposure right after my training. I would spread it out, or even have it in the morning, so that I'm not burning uh more energy than I need to, as well as focusing on muscle growth. So if you're, say, everybody has a different training style. Say if you're more on the low activity side, you would have cold exposure right after doing activity, like even just walking, or say you went to the gym and you're just like a regular gym goer, not worrying about gaining muscle, just trying to maintain. You can have cold exposure right after it for reducing inflammation and making sure your body repairs your muscles for tomorrow, or not for repairing, but making sure you uh, are reducing the inflammation that builds up after a training.
Yeah, and that's why if you have seen maybe like a college athletic training room or any type of training room in the collegiate or at professional level, they'll always have yeah, like a cold tub or some type of way that their athletes can get cold exposure, because they really know the benefits it has, especially with the recovery. And if you're having a lot of games back to back in a season, that could be something that maybe makes a difference between getting you maybe 70-80% ready for the next match, to then boosting it to almost 90 to 100% readiness for the next match, just based off of recovery.
Hmm.
And another like, although those are like kind of the known and like scientifically accepted benefits of cold exposure, what we actually also want to discuss today is the effects it has, especially on internal light emission or emission of biophotons. And I'm going to get a little more in depth to this, but I'll first start with kind of the definition of biophotons. So biophotons is pretty much like how it says in the word bio, which is biological, photons, which is light particles. So that pretty much is saying that those are photons that are emitted from like any living organism. And what actually is true is that all living organisms emit pretty weak biophotons. And at first, you probably were surprised by this, just like I was, because I had no idea that we emitted something like light. Like I kind of understood it because of heat, and because infrared usually or the presence of heat usually signals that there's infrared light as well. But I didn't know it was or the range of wavelengths could go beyond past just the infrared scale, because we can't see light being emitted. Like we don't emit light that can be visibly seen. Therefore, like that's why infrared would make sense, because you can't see it. It just you can feel it as heat. But I didn't know we actually emit wavelengths that go into the UV, visible, and those other lower nanometer wavelengths as well, which is like really cool. And if you kind of think back to what we talked about with Jack Cruz, the fact that we can emit ultra weak biophotons like means a lot and adds to the story about like the fact that we are beings of light, beings of water, and magnetism as well, and understanding that kind of relationship on like a physics level and even like an everyday level as well.
And I also wanted to say for the location in your body, mitochondria are built up in different parts of your body, and we have white fat cells and brown fat cells. Your white fat cells, is as you know, are for storage and insulation, but your brown fat cells are where most of your mitochondria are going to be, so that it works for thermoregulation as well as photogenesis. So it'll usually be, well, it is in your back and your neck, as well as places there are nerves, so that you can regulate your body with the temperature. So just to give you an idea where the mitochondria is at.
Yeah, and uh, mitochondria actually have a big role to play, especially when we talk about cold exposure or cold thermogenesis. I know you guys probably hear a lot about thermogenesis and may not know exactly what the term means. It pretty much just means your body's process of generating heat, and a lot of different systems have to do with this. Food or intaking food, any process that involves the release or exchange of heat, pretty much has to do with thermogenesis. But
And
what actually can trigger thermogenesis is cold exposure as well.
yeah, and say you went outside just in the winter for a walk, thermogenesis is occurring because when your body shivers, all your skeletal muscles and are contracting very rapidly, so it's producing heat over and over in your body. And what happens is when there's a stimulus where your body's temperature is dropping from due to something on the outside environment, in your brain, the hypothalamus will send signals to then have skeletal muscle contractions.
And what do the contractions do? Like help?
The rapid movement warms up your body. So the shivering that you experience every day, all the time when you're cold, is your body thermoregulating.
Got it. And I also heard that there's like you can kind of build up a tolerance to finally have cold exposure without shivering, and that means that you've kind of successfully activated your brown adipose tissue or your brown fat, because that's where all of the mitochondria are stored, like brown fat or brown adipose tissue in general is very packed with mitochondria, and the fact that you're able to not resist shivering, but not even shiver while getting cold exposure shows that you are successfully using uh, the mitochondria in your brown fat cells.
Yeah, and you might have a low resistance to it. Say you walked in a cold shower and you start shivering immediately. The goal is to have more cold exposure so that you have a resistance to it and don't have this shivering feeling, but activate your brown fat cells.
Yeah, and if you didn't know, brown fat cells actually run hotter metabolically when you're cold to keep you alive. And what that does to the whole system is it kind of shifts your calorie expenditure from other sources, which would be just be carbohydrates. Then it switches it to fat pretty much. So you're using your fat sources as fuel instead of the carbohydrates. So that could be or this could be another good method for fat metabolism or maybe weight loss. The degree on how much it can help with that, I'm not exactly sure, but it does kind of switch that shift or switch that use of fuel from carbs to then fats.
Yeah, and I also wanted to say when you think about having cold exposure and want to implement this to your daily activity, I think you should also be aware of your energy levels as well as like health issues or things like that because when you have cold exposure and your body is your metabolism is rising, you will use energy. So you don't want to go in and have a cold shower or a cold plunge when you're low on energy later in the day.
Yeah, because that's what like it all has to do with how your cortisol is reacting throughout the day. You want it to spike very early in the day, and if you're doing something that has to or that is such an intense reaction as cold exposure or immediate cold exposure, having something like that, which is gonna induce like an increase in cortisol, is gonna be a lot better to be done like in the morning or in the earlier times of the day because you don't want to be stressed out or trigger that cold response like or excuse me cortisol response later in the day because then that might mess up your melatonin production because of the increase in cortisol.
Mhm.
And so those are I think that all that information still kind of falls under what's like already known. But going back to what I was talking about with the biophotons, the role that cold exposure plays into it is that the mitochondria actually shifts from producing other wavelengths of light into more UV or ultraviolet light. And the reason that this is important because this shows that it's like a significant adaptation for people who live in the cold environments or who experience really harsh cold winters. The thing with cold winters, especially in the super low or super high latitudes, is that you get a lot less UV exposure, especially UVB exposure. And we know that if you don't get UV in the morning or at any point in the day, and especially less of it, then vitamin D deficiency starts to be a problem. And one of the ways humans have adapted over the years actually to combat this problem is the making of internal UV via cold exposure. So the cold creates a shift in the mitochondria so that now instead, like we said before, your mitochondria are now like getting more fired up, like kind of like burning like an engine. Imagine they were weak before. Now the cold exposure is going to trigger them to start working and start being more metabolically active, right? So what also comes as another plus with that is that it emits the wavelength of UV. And going back to what I just said about vitamin D, instead of getting it from the sun, now you can make internal UV. Although I said earlier that the light that you emit from a biological standpoint is like ultra weak or or known as ultra weak photons, it actually is just enough because of how proximal it is to the cell, pretty much. So uh, you can, like, the fact that the sun does, since you're not getting sun, it doesn't really matter because you're creating internal UV, and even though it's not that strong, as of course as strong as the sun, it's close enough to all the other cells in your body so that it can trigger the same information responses, so that all the processes that would be carried out under conditions where there's a lot of UV now are carried out because you're able to make the internal UV.
And you could think also with the cold exposure, it could aid in the structured water that we talked about a couple weeks or a week ago, where structured water is a state from liquid to solid, which is cold. And if you have cold exposure, structured water can be more dense and also uh, be more abundant in your body. So then the structured water, once UV light hits it, you can retain and absorb and also release energy.
Yeah, and if especially if you're making it internally, then you're kind of like self-sufficient because your mitochondria can make it, and then the other key components in your body's whole battery system or energy system can then process that information and then have all of the normal or healthy cell responses occur.
And
We
so
have
in the
some
chat,
questions in chat.
yeah. So people who live in cold lands have this activated 24/7.
Yeah, it's like, just think of it as like a cold adaptation because they don't really get a lot of sunlight year round. So the fact that they live in such a cold environment kind of combats the thing about vitamin D deficiency, especially because something like vitamin D deficiency is known to cause a lot of problems like MS and many other autoimmune diseases. And what they've actually found that the people who live in those regions don't have much of a problem with that because of the fact that they live in cold lands. And usually, what you'll see, especially with something like a blood test, is that uh, some people or the people that live in the cold regions, they would show to be vitamin D deficient in a blood test. But going back to what I told you about the body emitting its own UV light, if it emits its own UV light and is close enough to whatever cell or biological molecule needs to receive that information to make vitamin D, then it doesn't have to enter the bloodstream, if that makes sense. Like, the UV you get from the sun gets to your skin, and then to get throughout the rest of your body, it has to travel through the bloodstream. But if all of the cells are making it already, then you don't need that transportation of the bloodstream. It has access to that wavelength right there and then.
Mhm. And another question is, I have done dry fasting for health reasons and weight loss for my bad fat cells. Seems cold exposure does the same. Would it be good to do a dry fast or something like a cold plunge?
I think that would be a good combination, especially in the morning time. I know. I think Mike, who's on the Figuring Out Friday podcast, and he's definitely in the comments here today. He I think implemented like cold showers in the morning, especially to wake him up, as well as to reap the benefits of the cold thermogenesis and
Yeah.
usage of fat storage.
Yeah, and also how you can like greatly impact with this is after your training, where your body's already exerting heat, you can also kind of cascade that effect by having the cold exposure and then release heat through your fat cells. So you're doing like excess metabolism that you wouldn't have done if you separated it. So if you do it together without a break in between before you do cold exposure, uh, you will burn more fat.
Yeah, definitely, because like we said before, the thermogenesis shifts the usage of carbs then to fats, and then the fact that even if you have a dry fast on top of that, then that's just going to burn through all of that. So that's probably why you've seen some benefits with combining dry fasting and then also something like a cold shower.
And
And
what do you think about, like, say if somebody was vitamin D deficient and they wanted to kind of combat that, would they have more cold exposure, or would you have to see certain things like health issues or things like that? Obviously, you would check for that, but
yeah, if you see that they're vitamin D deficient, then of course, if you live in an environment or a place on the earth where you can get a lot of sun frequently throughout the day and not as extreme as something super up north or super down south, definitely the main fix that you should opt for is getting more sun exposure. But if you are limited in that, or if it's naturally just the winter time and where you're at, like now for us, it's October in Pennsylvania, so that's pretty much like fall, and then we're edging closer to winter. Like I think what does it start in? Probably like December, and then
yeah,
really
but
picks up in January.
mhm.
Like if, for example, like that, get like if you're in the fall time like us, of course, get as much sunlight exposure as you can, so you can get enough UV to then help with your vitamin D deficiency. But then when it gets really deep into the winter, or is like the near time of the winter solstice, where there's really not a lot of light left throughout the day, or maybe you're working through the times that, or you're working indoors when the light is out, definitely getting some type of cold exposure or just being outside in the environment is going to help you anyway. Like I said before, you can just go outside, and that's also considered cold exposure. That's pretty much the adaptation that people have. They just were in a cold environment that didn't have a lot of UV, so then the body found a way to make UV for itself internally.
Yeah, also, have cold exposure in the morning. Like, take a cold morning shower and then go outside and see the morning sun. You will boost your cortisol as well as make your body heat a lot more, and it's better in the winter months when you're feeling cold. You might think it's a little weird to have to want to get be cold and then go outside in a cold environment, but your body is going to regulate to heated space. So, and also for example, in high school, uh, I didn't really have a choice for a little bit, but I had to use cold water for showers in the morning. And when I took the cold shower at school, even though it was a cold day, my body felt warm and I felt more awake and alert.
Yeah, I think the another main problem that you can think of is like when you think of cold and flu season, you especially think of like right around now, like switch or transition from the warmer months of the summer to the winter, which is pretty much fall. And what happens is people are inside, they have their heaters running, they're not really getting the cold exposure from the environment that they need to be getting. So then that's creating vitamin D deficiency, especially during that time frame. And then what that's doing is that's weakening your immune system pretty much. And that's why a lot of people tend to maybe not feel as good, or feel tired, sluggish, or a lot worse at this time. I know I like these past weeks for me, like I haven't had nearly as much as energy as I had or I remember having in the summer. And I was kind of more aware of it, especially because now I'm implementing all of the stuff I've learned throughout the all of the podcasts we've done so far, especially with the work Jack Cruz has been doing. And I really noticed the difference between how I felt then and how I felt now. I really noticed that I have like less capacity to do things, and my energy is overall lower. But at least now I can take the information from here and go get some more cold exposure, maybe limit the use of heaters or anything, because what that's pretty much going to do is set my environment or set my body correctly for my environment. And what people have been doing for so many ages is they've been creating an artificial environment to make them feel super comfortable. But what they don't realize is that they're doing more harm than good, because then your body's not really in its environmental reality. So you're kind of living like a fake, like in a fake little artificial world, even though it doesn't seem like it.
Yeah, make your body feel uncomfortable for a little bit, even if it's just for uh like a couple minutes a day. Go expose yourself to some cold. Like in the winter months, I think also take advantage of playing in the snow as well. Like it's just a fun thing to do, as well as like the cold exposure is very high because you're surrounded by so much of like ice and snow and things like that. So take advantage of it in the winter.
And we have another comment. It says the best option is probably living in an area where you get lots of sun and cold exposure. Can the cold exposure cover off the benefits for the lack of sun exposure, or are they different? So yeah, pretty much, yeah, like we were saying, cold exposure can definitely I don't know. I don't say it would, it's not going to cover off the benefits of lack of sun exposure. It's just gonna it's pretty much the way you can make your own internal UV. So it would kind of be like a supplement to sun exposure. So think of sun exposure as something that's like non-negotiable. You have to get that UV every single day, or all the wavelengths that the light has, especially in the morning. Getting that initial UV in the morning, but something like cold exposure is going to be like a supplement, because then it's going to transition from you having beforehand taken in the UV or gotten the UV from sun. Now you're able to make it internally. So it would just kind of make that sort of shift. So then you're not dependent on the sun anymore, because you can't be. Because if you're, like I said before, if you're in a super cold environment, that usually means the sun is not going to be out nearly as much as in a hot environment, or any region towards like the equator, pretty much. And yeah, I think let me know if I answered that question correctly for you. It's a little bit confusing, but what I want you to just remember is that cold means you've now increased your ability to make more internal UV.
Yeah, so it's kind of like you were saying, you don't want to miss the sun exposure. It's something that you have to include in your daily activity. Like like say you know that you're not going to be able to get your sunlight throughout the rest of the day. Literally, just go outside. Go outside in the cold exposure while the sun is out during these months right now. You'll get knocked both of them out in the morning, and you don't have to worry about later.
Yeah, and one other cool thing I want to reference that I learned in one of the Tetragrammaton podcasts was about the KT event. So the KT event is supposedly the event that kind of wiped out the dinosaurs and did all of that. It was like that supposedly due to asteroid impact. And what happened with the asteroid impact was that in the atmosphere there was a lot of ash and dust buildup. So that ash and dust buildup above all of the organisms on the surface blocked the UV light from coming and hitting them. And what happened is that the environment became super cold and frigid, and all the mammals were stressed, and then that transitioned them into using their fat reserves, just like how we talked about cold thermogenesis does. And then they were able to switch switch their UV source from the sun, which was now not an available option anymore, to now making it internally, because of the cold environment that was created by the KT event. And that kind of shows you like how evolution and biology has created a bunch of different ways for us to live and survive, and we kind of don't take advantage of them because they're now all messed up and screwed with because of the artificial environment that we're pretty much living in.
Yeah. And think of your body as a system. Don't just think that you don't have to put yourself in an uncomfortable position, because all the stressors which kind of oppose what we're comfortable with will help us grow and adapt to the environment.
Yeah, exactly. Like you said, it's a environment. I mean, it's a adaptation in response to a stressor. So the stressor in the KT event would have been the now lack of sun or blocking of UV, and then now biology kind of found its own way, or evolution found its own way to keep the mammals alive, and now we humans carry this adaptation as well, which I think is something that we can definitely take advantage of from a health standpoint, because a lot of people experience all of these immune disorders or lack of immune function because of what is happening to our environment. And when I mean environment, like not in the sense of like pollution and things like that. Of course, that's very bad. But when I mean environment, I'm talking about our light environment and our electrical and magnetic environments as well. So pretty much this screen, all of the lights here, these are all sending me signals that are artificial and are working against what my natural environment wants from me. And the heater in my room too, as well. Like that technically shouldn't be on. Like I should be covered up in maybe blankets or something. Even that might sound like super absurd in today's day and age. It's actually we're just making life too comfortable to the point where now our adaptations are all out of whack, and disease is becoming more prominent, especially chronic disease.
Yeah, and that makes me think about a question my cousin asked me, where he was coming home from a late shift where he was exposed to all this blue light in the building, and he had to come home right away and try to find himself and go to sleep on a late hour where his body was affected by the blue light, which helped him, which made him stay awake. And later in the day, you want to go to sleep for the next day. So I think adding all these natural stressors will regulate your body to where it should be.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I just want to go back one step back, just to reiterate what the cold thermogenesis also does, especially with the creation of internal UV. So what I have here as a note is that higher mitochondrial activity is associated with higher internal light emission, including UV range biophotons. So when we go back to what we were saying in the very beginning about cold exposure increasing mitochondrial activity, that shift and increase in mitochondrial activity, it's what's going to trigger the internal light emission of UV biophotons. And that is like how you kind of like do the whole circle and kind of loop back to what we were saying earlier. And I think the more I read about cold exposure, I see constantly more and more the benefits that I wasn't really aware of. I usually thought it was something that, oh, okay, it's good for you. It can help a bit, but it's more about like a kind of like a mental toughness thing, especially with the impacts it has with dopamine as well. And what, like, I don't know, when you see people online doing ice bath, they just do it kind of like to seem tough, or to say like, oh, I did this, or this is gonna help with my mental capacity being stronger. But actually, it's like doing much more than that. Like maybe your mental capacity is increasing because of all of the added benefits that you get especially with the internal light emission.
Yeah, and if you think about all the top high level training athletes that you see, like say in the UFC, Ilya Taporia, he's one of the best mixed martial artists in the world. And I've seen even him plus a lot of other athletes that utilize cold exposure and cold plunges because it helps with recovery as well as all the other things that we're trying to talk about here. So kind of be mindful and just put yourself in an uncomfortable position sometimes. Like I know I like my hot showers, but I think even today I'm gonna start switching over to even if you can get uh, like 20 minutes of cold exposure a week, or even just 10. That's more than what you usually do on a regular basis. So just start off slow and make it more and more as you go. You don't have to immediately jump into something that's so uncomfortable where it's unbearable and you don't want to do it again.
Yeah, I
And
definitely
also
agree.
from the chat, wow, you're saying a lot of good things. I'm thinking cold exposure with proper electrolytes right before can do a lot. Uh,
Yeah,
he's
and we're gonna
referring
go
to
in a
right
little bit
before.
into a protocol of like what you can do. It's pulled from the jackcruise.com page about cold thermogenesis, and we'll tell you like yeah, of course to get proper electrolytes, but there's some other things he recommends you to do before starting your cold exposure that we're gonna
Yeah,
get into.
also the rehydration will help a lot. Like drink water as well as the electrolytes at the same time. You'll retain the water and it stay hydrated, helping with the your whole system, the structured water, and also adding the cold exposure and the sunlight will all come together and regulate your body. And also, amazing topic. Does that mean that people that live in colder areas are better off than those who don't? From Diego.
Um, Okay, yeah, the great question, Diego. That no, so pretty much if we circle back to what I said again, the people who so he's saying what people who that live in colder areas are better off than those who don't. So that's not that wouldn't be the case because the people who are living in the warmer areas are getting enough UV light from the sun. So say like you live in a tropical environment, the sun there is going to be out more hours of the day compared to somewhere in a super high or super low latitude where it's usually really cold. Think of maybe places like Scandinavia, like Norway, Finland, like those type of super cold areas, or you can even go to the more extreme about like the Arctic or Antarctica. But pretty much, if you can, it just matters about how you get UV. So either you make it internally or you get it from the sun. So people in the warmer environments don't really need the cold exposure as much because they're getting it from the sun. Not to say that cold exposure wouldn't help them at all. It definitely could help you, especially with all the other benefits we were talking about. But from a light standpoint, it's just different because you don't really need to make more internal UV if you can get it from the sun. But then those who live in the cold need it because of the lack of sun. So that's why that's why you have that adaptation pretty much to create your own UV. And I think it's cool to think about just the fact that humans can like create their own light and be super self-sufficient. I think the degree to how our body can be so self-sufficient is like a spot that hasn't been like looked into enough. I think people especially now have shifted the focus to nutrition, food, and my mom was even talking about this the other day, and I really agree. Like culture and everything is really revolved around food, like especially in the health and fitness world. Like how much good food can you get in? Are you eating this food? Are you eating that food? And blah blah blah. But the story is like maybe you don't need as much food if your environment's in check and if your body is reacting well to your environment. So that makes it a whole different problem and a whole different way that people should start treating their health and their lifestyle, because now they're not hyper focused on something that may not be the root problem. And of course, not to say that food isn't an important piece. Of course, food's an important piece, but people have so many other factors that they've not changed or fixed yet, and then now they're only looking at one little piece to find, am I eating this? Am I eating that? But I think people should just open their minds up a lot and see what else can really be done, because I think
Yeah,
it's a lot.
yeah, and people might be listening to us and thinking, "Oh, wow, we have crazy superpowers. We can make our own light and use it as energy." But it's true. Like we're saying it now, and maybe later down the line, we can help to promote it as well. Pay attention to your body because it's always adapting and making changes to the environment.
And we had another comment right before Diego's comment. It said, "If I can get red light while doing cold plunge and get lots of electrolytes, can be great. Am I on right thought pattern?" Yes, definitely you're on the right thought pattern. Getting red light as well is going to help with cell signaling, and also with helping your mitochondria be more metabolically active and healthy as well. And that's like super important.
Does this
And
color of your skin affect
Limbo
the
said,
way?
interesting. Oh, no, sorry.
Does the color of your skin affects the way you receive UV and others?
Oh, okay. So this is a really, really good question as well, Diego. You're coming up with some really good other topics, and I think this we can expand on in another podcast episode, but I'll touch on it just a little bit. So he's saying, does the color, just to restate the question, he's saying, does the color of your skin affect the way you receive UV and others? Um, I wouldn't say. I would say it depends. Um, and what I mean by that is it pretty much has to do with melanin, and melanin pretty much determines the color of your skin, and melanin is pretty much the receiver, for, excuse me, melanin is the receiver for light. So it kind of has to do with more of like how much melanin you have. The color of your skin, like if you have more melanin, then that means your body is able to better um uh capture light.
Transport and yeah, and also like send it throughout your body. Like
Yeah.
imagine mitochondria as the projector and the screen as melanin.
Yeah, so like if we talk about, okay, so like the projector can be two things from what we said. It can be your mitochondria making the internal UV, or it can be the UV from the sun. And like Joshin just said, melanin is the screen or the light manager, pretty much. So like imagine you have like you're in a movie theater, and you see the projector, and then it's now hitting the screen. The screen, the projector, you can think of that as the sun source, or like we said, your mitochondria, depending on what is being activated. Then the melanin is a screen, and of course, as we know, if you're of a darker skin tone, the more melanin you have in your skin. And the part that makes this kind of tricky is that they're finding melanin in places or areas that are not just on the skin, and melanin is actually being found in organs and deeper tissue. And I don't think they've done enough substantial research in that, but that could pretty much change the whole game. But for now, like we'll just stick to like melanin and the skin. So
Yeah, we will
like
get
I
into that more later, and maybe even in the upcoming and following podcasts. If it's a topic that you guys are interested in, we'll go into it.
Yeah. So actually, Actually, I think I got my answer now. Before I didn't have it fully formulated in my head, but now I do. So think of it like this. So you want if you're getting sun or if you're getting UV from the sun, that means you would want all of your projectors to receive that signal. You would want that on the outside of your body. So you would want that on your skin. So that's why you see people who live in tropical environments or really hot environments. That's why you're going to see that they have a lot of melanin present on their skin, because that's going to be the screen that is capturing the UV from the sunlight. But on the other hand, if you take someone who lives in a very cold region, they're not going to be getting as much UV from the sun. So what they have to do is they have to internalize their melanin. So what that means is that's why they have melanin now stored in their body, like internally, instead of on their skin. And that's why, like, you'll see they'll have very pale or white skin, because they don't need the melanin on their skin. They need it inside, because their body is emitting it from the mitochondria. So it all depends, like it all depends on where you're getting your UV from. Like I said, either the sun or from yourself. If you're getting it from yourself, you can it's all going to be internalized. If it's from an external source like the sun, you're going to want it on the outside, so your body can capture it and then further send signals for other metabolic processes.
Yeah, and the higher the melanin, the higher the resistance to sunlight. Where your body, say if somebody like me would go to a very hot place where sunlight is beaming down all the time, and everybody else has higher melanin, I might have a less of a resistance to it because I'm not as exposed to that environment. But here, where it's colder, I might have more internal UV production than people over there.
Yeah, exactly. And like I just think like it's of course like I said, we're gonna definitely I think we should definitely do an entire episode about like melanin and its importance, but like I just really think it's like super cool to understand like why melanin is present in different regions, and how like it expands, just not like it all has to do with light pretty much, like how you can capture light and internalize light to increase your metabolic health. And all of the adaptations that we have are kind of surrounded or based on our sun pretty much. And yeah, let me just do a quick check of what else oh, I think now is the time that we're gonna get into the protocol that we have for you guys, which is called the cold thermogenesis or CT protocol from Jack Cruz. So I have it just laid out here on my notes. So when he says to do it, he said the preferred timing windows are going to be at sunrise, like me and Joshin have been recommending, and also after dinner and in the evening. That kind of contradicts what we were saying, but let's see kind of what his rationale for it is. So he said
It depends really when you have it, because like I said, depending on how your training is or how you exercise during the day, like you could benefit from a certain time, like say if you exercise earlier in the day, you could do this evening exposure to food. So I think it kind of depends on your environment.
yeah, it said okay. So it says after dinner do mild cold exposure at night, because this can push you towards parasympathetic recovery, better melatonin signaling, and better overnight fat metabolism, giving you a deeper repair sleep. And also one of the benefits of cold exposure was increase in deep sleep and recovery, or the fact that you're getting deeper sleep is obviously going to aid toward increased recovery. And what he says to do before each cold session is to eat a high fat or a high protein heavy meal beforehand. And yeah, this is what I meant as like kind of like the precursor to then going into the cold exposure. And yeah, you can definitely drink some electrolytes beforehand, but making sure you get in kind of a protein heavy and fatty meal is definitely going to help, because then you want to use your fat storages, not
Yeah, you're
sugar.
using your fat as energy. So if you're when you're losing that and the thermal regulation is causing you to burn all the fat, you might want you're definitely going to want some fat to be reintroduced to the body.
Hmm. And it says this also provides steady electrons to your mitochondria, which in this model would support clean photon output instead of chaotic stress output, which would lead to like energy leakage pretty much. And also the other recommendation is to drink 16 to 32 ounces of ice cold water right before going to cold exposure, because it helps start to cool your core and tell the nervous system that an increase in cold is about to happen to the body.
Yeah, this is
And
definitely a part of if you want to start doing cold exposure, you should definitely like start drinking more cold water even throughout the day so that you can get your body used to the cold environment. So if you want to do a cold shower, like I said, like just for a couple minutes, start drinking cold water before you go there. Go into the shower and expose yourself to cold.
definitely. And that's something I also did as well, and it actually did help reduce the shivering when I went and did the cold shower. And so after you do those two, eat a high fat and protein meal and drink the ice cold water. Level 1 for cold exposure or cold thermogenesis is going to be face dunking, and this is face dunking into like a bowl of ice water, kind of like the Ashton Hall method, pretty much, without the banana though. So you're just gonna get like a bowl of ice water, and you're gonna dunk your head in there. And what this actually does is going to train the nervous system and the vagus nerve to accept cold as safe instead of a panic mode, pretty much. And all you have to do pretty much is just fill the bowl with water, and the temperature that you want it around is 50 to 55 degrees Fahrenheit. And you should use a thermometer for this, but just add. My recommendation is just to add ice until you hit that zone. So just cool the water. Like I feel like if you have ice on you, it's easier to like keep adding that to cool the water instead of adding like more hot water to like extremely cold. So you can, yeah, just keep adding the ice until you get to that 50 to 55 degree Fahrenheit range. And when you're dunking your face in there, you want to hold it as long as you're comfortable with. So when it starts to be too uncomfortable or burn too much, then come up. Then what you're actually, breathe. Yeah, or you can't breathe. So what also you're gonna do is you're gonna come up, take a breath, and then you're gonna go back right in, and you're gonna do this for like several rounds. And what you're gonna want to do is kind of like keep progressing and beating your records. You want to increase your total time with fewer breaks. So fewer breaks meaning like you're down and then you come up and take a breath and then go back down. That coming up and taking the breath is considered one break. So you want fewer of those, and you want to increase your time with your face dunked in there. And why this is especially important to be done to the face region, it's because your face is packed with trigeminal and vagus pathways that synapse into the brainstem. So when you do calm, repeated face dunks, you're teaching your brainstem that cold is not like an emergency state, and that actually what you can do is you can lower inflammation, control heart rate, and control your stress chemistry, which is super important in setting the stage so that full body stuff doesn't trigger like a lot of panic. So like this would be like this is why it's level 1. It's like an introductory into like the world of cold exposure and cold therapy. Level 2 is going to be a bit more intense. You're gonna have a compression shirt on. So compression shirt, yeah, you're just gonna put it on like a long sleeve compression shirt specifically. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna lie on your back, and then you're gonna get a 20 to 40 pound ice bag, and you're gonna lay it right across your torso, pretty much. And what you're gonna do is start with 10 to 15 minutes with the ice on there, and add about 5 minutes each session until you build up to 60 minutes. So that sounds like pretty gruesome and pretty tough, but maybe I haven't given this protocol a try yet, besides maybe the face dunking and the full body immersion, but I haven't done it for as long as what they're saying to do it on here.
Yeah, and if you can't, you obviously when you want to start exposing yourself to cold, you're gonna have a resistance to it. So a sensitivity to the stress environment. So kind of easing yourself into it. Don't just do the second step right away.
Yeah, and also make sure if you have any like conditions where this would make it very hard for you, of course, like approach this with a lot of caution, because if you don't know what you're doing and you're not at a good state before going into this, then you could definitely do some damage. And also just pay attention to the color of your skin as well, and the redness of it too.
Yeah, if it's a pale white color and it stays that color, you should definitely stop what you're doing. Like if you can say if you have your finger right here, if you press your finger and it's like it doesn't return back to,
Like, yeah,
having a red color or like a pinkish color, and it just stays white, then that means you're not having enough blood circulation because of the cold. So don't push yourself too much, and just be careful.
yeah, definitely. And the other steps for after placing the bag or block of ice on your torso is yeah, actually no, I think I covered it already. You do that, and then you just do it for 10 to 15 minutes, and you add 5 minutes every session till you get to 60 minutes. And things that you should watch for, yeah, like we just said, skin should go to pink or cherry red, and if it goes to that white color like Joshua was talking about, and it's not refilling with blood, then definitely there's a problem there, and you should stop immediately. And also, one thing to notice, especially with this level, mild surface numbness is common. So that's like if you're doing it correctly, it's nothing extreme to worry about.
And I also wanted to say that if you think about people that have cold hands and cold feet, I sometimes do have it when I have heat exposure or have a hot shower, and then later when I'm gonna go to sleep, my feet start to get cold because my body's not regulating my temperature correctly, and it's the blood circulation in the palms of my hands and my feet is not going back to where it should be. So I think that having the cold exposure will regulate your body and also return your body to have heat all over. So this is a quick fix to that as well.
Yeah, and if you're seeing that you're finding a lot of trouble with this, maybe doing something like cleaning up your diet to more kind of like a paleo or a ketogenic diet, I think you're definitely going to see an increase, or at least better performance when you go and do your cold thermogenesis. Especially eat a lot of seafood that's going to have the DHA in that as well. And what that's going to do is pretty much balance out your omega-6 to 3 fatty acid ratio, and your body's going to be better able to calm inflammation down when it's brought with the cold. Then we have level 3, which is full body immersion with ice. And the goal of this, especially for people living in the wintertime and are not adjusting or do not have their environment adjusted correctly, is this is going to send the full deep winter message to the hypothalamus, leptin system, and melanocortin system, as well as thyroid and adrenal axis, fertility axis, and immune system. So all of these major bodily systems are going to be benefited from the cold exposure. So what you're going to do with the full body immersion is fill a bathtub with cold tap water. And what you're going to actually want to do, which is I thought was interesting, is protect the ends of your body. So wearing socks, wearing gloves, and wearing a warm beanie. And then you're going to add 20 pounds of ice, especially around the torso area, like kind of like what we were saying with the last one. But now you're having the full body immersion, and then you're having the ice on top of you as well. And this one's pretty lengthy. It's saying to stay up to 30 to 45 minutes if you can tolerate. And
Yeah,
I think all of these ones are,
Mhm.
yeah, all of these are like pretty intense. And I think it's definitely for people that are wanting to find or wanting to use this as like a medical solution to whatever they're dealing with, like MS or other immune disease, autoimmune diseases.
And also, when you're another thing that you should focus on when you do a cold plunge is your breathing. You don't want to just start panting out of nowhere. If you breathe slowly and deeply, you will control your body heat and temperature a lot better. So you won't be as uncomfortable as you are panting and not being able to breathe.
Yeah, and for as far as the skin color check, a pink red means good perfusion, and a pale white means shut down in the area, get out, and that's pretty much, yeah, just repeating what we just said with the last one. Frequency for that, 2 to 5 times per week is what's typically suggested if you want a super strong adaptation. And let me see. Then we have level 4, and this is natural cold water, so no ice. So that's pretty much you going out to the ocean or going out to a cold lake and going and getting a cold exposure there. Just going in neck deep for around 10 to 20 minutes, and that should be good. I think the frequency is the same as the other one, the other level we just mentioned, like 2 to 5 times per week if you want like a super strong adaptation.
And that gives you the most natural environment as well. You're outside in the sun, but you're also in a cold environment. So it gives you the natural stressors that you're looking for.
Yeah, and just to kind of sum up some of the benefits that you get when doing this, especially from the framework that Jack Cruz has laid out and what we've talked about, especially with light's role in this. So what you can do is you can reduce visceral fat. You can kill constant cravings and nighttime binge urges by repairing the leptin melanocortin signaling. So pretty much reducing hunger and normalizing appetite as well. So you're not hungry every 90 minutes like a lot of people nowadays are. You can also support fertility by stabilizing hypothalamic reproductive signaling, help thyroid and adrenals operate efficiently instead of burning out, improve insulin sensitivity and help reverse early metabolic syndrome, deepen sleep and physical recovery, drop inflammation and pain, improve mood, not just from a dopamine hit, but from a cleaner mitochondrial output in the brain, and finally support immune function in low sun seasons, potentially via internal vitamin D production triggered by mitochondrial UV biophotons in cold adapted fat. So those are definitely major problems that you can aid in by implementing some cold exposure, especially this cold thermogenesis protocol. And yeah, Justin, do you have any other things to add?
No, but also if like we were saying earlier about any topics that you guys might want to see, like the about melanin, increased melanin, how it affects how our body reacts to light and cold exposure in the future. So anything that you guys want to see, just put it in the comments below.
Yeah. We're open to anything, and all we want to do is just learn as much as we can. So then, when we finally step into the shoes of clinicians, we can help as many people as we can while still keeping this podcast alive and going, so that who knows, so many people can get inspired and learn the truths about health pretty much, and be champions of wellness.
Mhm.
So yeah, we thank you guys so much for tuning with us today on episode 3 of the Champions of Wellness podcast, and we hope to see you guys next week. Thank you.
See you guys.